Tonight's good dossier is going to be our introduction to good sports. As always, the Goods dossiers are brought to you by the Goods Virtual World. I am Roderick Dix, your CEO and founder. Tonight, we are going to explore something that has been in the news for the last several years. As if you are a parent, you probably absolutely are going to want to sit in and run this conversation. And if you're a coach, athletic director, and or an innocent bystander that knows somebody that has children that are currently in the athletic arena, this conversation is for you. So tonight we are going to look at a clear path in youth sports. There is a system running underneath every game. Most families don't know it exists, but is deciding outcomes long before the final whistle. Good Sports is a arm of the Goods virtual world, and as we go through tonight's presentation, you will learn more about our plans to bring back some clarity into the system of youth athletics. So let's start where we are today. Youth sports filters more than it develops. We call it development. Structurally, it's a funnel, and most athletes exit long before they are truly ever seen. Currently, as of 2025, there are 8 million high school athletes across the United States, 480,000 NCAA competitors, 35,000 Division I athletes, and out of those, only 0.5% go professional. There's a huge tax on hope today. An average family spends roughly $8,000 to $25,000 per year chasing a signal that doesn't clearly exist. The average scholarship, roughly $15K. This equates to a $20 to $40 billion industry as of 2025. When performance is unclear, money becomes a signal. This isn't a market, it's a tax on hope, fueled by information asymmetry. Our whole objective here is to make sure that we are bringing the headlines to you, but also providing the article. The information provided is going to be fact checkable, so feel free to do so after the event. But definitely understand that the information is well researched, and we do want to make sure that we are bringing clarity around the system. We're not losing athletes, we're currently losing potential. And to me, as a father of two athletes, this is one of the biggest things I see in the travel circuit today. We are having young adults, young children, young teens go through a cycle that ends up with majority of them quitting by the age of 13. The current stage looks like this. Stage 1, we have relative age effect. Stage 2, early selection bias. That involves coaches, parents, travel sponsors, etc. Stage 3, we have an identity crisis. This goes to your top 100s, your top 300s, your ESPN rankings, your rivals rankings, etc., etc. Stage 4, there's a 70% dropout by the age of 13. Now, obviously, the identity pressure doesn't exist as much before the age of 13, but at the same time, as we continue down the path that we are currently on, pretty soon we will be ranking the top 8-year-old soccer player and the top 7-year-old baseball player relatively soon if we continue on this path. Currently, we have two failures into one system. The system confuses early maturity with true talent. A child born in January holds a structural advantage over one born in December, and that advantage gets mistaken for ability. We all have experienced it if you have any type of athletic career of your own, or if you have been in the athletic space, you will understand that maturity of children obviously varies. One thing that happens very early in youth athletics is we may have a kid that starts to mature much faster than one that is similar in age. You see this all the time in your elementary schools across the country, where you'll see one boy that may be already 5 feet, another boy barely scratching 4 feet. It happens every day, and they could be the exact same age. The early labeling creates identity pressure. When a 10-year-old is told they're not a soccer player, that label sticks. It's quite unfortunate that it happens, but we do have across the country, as youth sports get more and more competitive, we have coaches, advisors, trainers, consulting with parents every day. Myself, I coach 10U softball, And I obviously have been doing it for now several years. And I have been in arenas and fields and training facilities where you can tell that a child's energy changes based off the feedback they're receiving from the adult. Because of this, when I get told as a child that, hey, this sport maybe not be cut out for you, and obviously we try to be as PC as possible and we don't say it directly like that, but we may say it to a parent or a family member or just joking in passing. It traditionally has led, and this was the most astounding thing to me that I found in my research. By the age of 13, 70% of American athletes quit. Now, you may not be a huge fan of athletics, but regardless if you are or you aren't, that is not fair to the ones that are asking to just play. We encourage our children to go outside more than ever today because of electronics, but then you put them into an environment where they're not welcome there either. So, as adults, I think it's on us to make that decision and make it a little easier for our children to continue to play. This is not from a lack of talent because a lot of these kids, like the ones I coach, they have aspirations to be great. You just have to meet them where they are. And sometimes it's just a level of understanding, and sometimes and most of the time actually, it's patience. A lot of our children today, they just need somebody to sit there and walk them through it one drill at a time and give words of encouragement. Once they start developing the processes that they already can do, as we know, children today, in my opinion, are way, way, way more intelligent than adults of my generation. And the reason I say that confidently is because there's things that they're able to do intellectually that I know I wouldn't be able to do. Just prime example. When you think about things that they have the ability to do, they walk around with a computer in their pocket. So they have the opportunity to research, discover, explore anything they want. Now you may say, well, majority of the kids spend their time on Roblox, YouTube, TikTok, all the social media platforms. Be it as it may, that may be true, but at the same time, because of that, the information that they're receiving, rather good or bad, depending on who's judging it, that information is still more information than you would have received in the early 2000s. So, being a coach, the things that I like to do is encourage kids to, hey, if you're going to be on the platform anyways, instead of watching anime videos, why not watch a softball video? You want to spend 30 minutes watching TikToks, spend 30 minutes watching swings. Once you start implanting these seeds, you'll be surprised how easily they gravitate. And just like us when we were children, we always look up to professional athletes as role models. And I know we have tons of those today that are great role models, and especially because of NIL. One of the things that we also venture into here at the Goods Virtual World, we understand that these athletes are becoming more and more prominent to our youth. So it's not on the youth to be told to go play. It's on the adults to make play accessible and fun. Without a standard, the game never pauses. No clear evaluation creates a vacuum, and that vacuum fills with year round play, overuse, and burnout. And this goes to those people that believe that travel sports began when sports began. Because of this, we have no clear evaluation. Let's start there. Without a trusted performance signal, families and coaches default to volume as proof of commitment. So when I'm sitting here trying to evaluate my players, basically what we're saying is, and basically what research is telling us, is that we are basing our evaluations off of the people that show up. We're not basing it off of a clear standard of evaluation. You know, for myself, when I got into coaching, something that I never thought I would do, once I got in, I started realizing just simple things like walking the girls through how to throw a softball, how to catch a softball. There was no real way to evaluate these players. So, coaches, before I came in, initially we were just letting girls go wherever and getting, and it's kind of a sink or swim mentality. It reminds me of my sales days. So, that has to change. 2, year-round play. Specialization accelerates. Rest becomes a liability. The body has no recovery window. As we all know as adults, and I hope if we don't, we learn tonight, that your body needs rest. Putting these kids through year round trainings, year round coachings, year round workouts with the hopes of them going pro, yes, it pans out. It does. We all know the LeVar Balls of the world. We all, if you've just seen the Michael Jackson film, we all know the Joe Jacksons of the world. But sustainability is the goal, and that is not going to be sustainable long term. Now, I am not saying that you're playing your sport year round for those that live in climates that allow them to, like Florida, California, majority of the southern part of the United States. That's not what I'm discussing. What I'm discussing is giving the children the opportunity to at least have a window to one, let their body rest, but two, most importantly, their minds. Because three is overuse and burnout. What we have found in research today is injuries amongst children ages 13 and below are on a huge rise. And I believe it's truly because of the things that we mentioned before. Mental fatigue is setting in at an all time high. Athletes are exiting again, not from the lack of the love of the game, but from pure exhaustion. That is never the case, and that is not the intent. We understand that, you want your kids to become specialized. We want them to get better at what they're doing. We have a dream for them. They're our children, for God's sake. So we understand that we want what's best. But at the same time, we do have to also understand that the expectation for a 7-year-old is not to be messy, or an 8-year-old to be Aaron Judge. We have to become realistic. Just because it's available to us does not mean it needs to be used. What's actually missing? And to us here at the Goods Virtual World, this is where good sports comes into play. We believe what is missing is the signal. Currently, every other system has one. For example, school has GPA, a universal, portable, trusted measure of academic performance. Colleges, employers, and scholarships all understand it. It's something that we have lived with, something we've had forever, and it's one of those things that makes perfect sense. It's very simplistic, and we need something like that for sports. U Sports has fragmented rankings currently as of today. As I mentioned before, your ESPNs of the world, your rivals of the world, everybody that gets a hand in the pot of ranking these athletes, they are very isolated. The geography depends on the access. Money, the access, and the zip codes replace the merit. So a lot of the times, if you are growing up in Idaho and there is an IMGs of the world and you or a perfect game tournament that you want to attend or EYBL, these things may not be readily accessible to you. These are things that currently as events are one of the best ways to get ranked in this country. Because of that, if I don't have access, nor do I have transportation, or maybe I just didn't get seen by the perfect AAU team, I may end up being off the rankings. And we have seen this happen before. We look at professional athletes of today. A lot of our favorite players were not highly ranked. For example, Steph Curry. His father was an NBA athlete, and his son still wasn't as highly ranked and touted coming out of high school. These are things that, again, it's very difficult because there is no true signal to judge talent in our current system. A universal trusted portable performance signal is what we're calling for. One that follows the athlete, not the organization. So, for example, if you've ever seen the top teams around the country, some of these high schools that like IMG that have been around and they get all the notoriety, deservingly so. Beaufort High School in Georgia. You have several high schools around the country that have been on ESPN. These high schools get this ranking, and then the players kind of come along for the ride. We're suggesting that it shouldn't be the organization that gets the ranking. It should be the athlete. So here's broken down simply in this infographic. School GPA, universal and portable. Trusted, understood by all institutions. U Sports ranking and access. Currently, it's fragmented, ranking subjective evaluations. Geography dependent, it's money based, and it replaces the merit. So, what if performance was the only signal? Not rankings, not hype, not who you know, a system where advancement is earned and verified on the field. We already do this today. The data is already being collected. If you guys remember, there were such things as the Presidential Award that used to take place. This is ranking all the elementary age kids around the country, and everybody used to test for this award. It was very popular at it for a time, and a lot of people enjoyed being able to say, I earned the Presidential Award. That is kind of essentially what we're alluding to. We want to create a local entry level competition. When you're in little leagues or Pop Warners or AUs of the world, whatever your local rec league is, that is where your competition lifestyle begins. Because our job at the Goods Virtual World is to make things as simplistic as possible and bring clarity around systems that may be fragmented, like sports. One of the reasons we want to go to the local leagues, as you guys have known, and what you've probably seen in media, is that travel sports have become the norm. Well, the one issue with travel sports is one, a lot of parents work full time jobs. So, traveling around the United States for my child at a young age may not be as valuable or may not be something that I can even do realistically. So, because of that, rec leagues have now become watered down. And a lot of people are now turning little leagues and pop warners into, oh, yeah, my kid's better than that. Well, we all began somewhere. And these leagues have been around for hundreds of years for a reason. And it's time for us to feed back into our local communities first. And so entry level competition is going to get a rebrand. Next, if you win your local league, so let's stick with Little League. If I win my regular season in Little League, then, as we all know today, you get an opportunity to play in the district tournament. Well, that district tournament is typically covered by your little league dues. So there's not an added expense to the parents to in order for these children to compete at the district level. All they have to do is win to get there. And that's what we're trying to encourage. Bring back the goal of making it through competition and earning your right to create the merit that we want. So, you win your district tournament, you get a verified performance threshold. When you get that threshold will either come from the Goods Virtual World, which we will do in a virtual space, and we will keep the rankings and data available for everybody to access inside of our virtual platform. But we also are encouraging leagues like Little League, Pop Warner, our national organizations that have been around that collect data on us since the beginning of time. They have the access, they have the manpower, they also have the funding to be able to do this. And so we are recommending a Goods Virtual World performance threshold symbol. After you win your district tournament, you, again, very common knowledge, you move on to the regional tournament. This is competitive advancement. These are the tournaments that will get you placed in EYBLs around the world, the perfect games around the world. And so that way, teams don't have to pay large fees in order to be a part of these tournaments. Now, what happens to the teams that don't win? Well, then in that case, then you have the capability of paying the normal registration fees as they exist today. So we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just trying to open up opportunity for the teams that can make it to these tournaments strictly on their merit. Then you get to the national level, which is the proof of level achieved. So you want to make sure that once your team makes it to the national level, then we're going to encourage people like ESPN and Rivals to rank these players that are on the teams that make it to this level. Because these players obviously have made it there not off of who they know, not off of how much money their parents make. They truly have made it there strictly off of their talent. And that is what the goal is. And this gives kids something to actually strive for. So your national rankings is like your presidential award. You now can represent yourself as one of the best athletes in your particular sport at any given age. Also, it gives the parents a clear signal of where your child's professional journey can potentially end up. So, the good sports model: one rule, one structure, one standard that follows every athlete. The core rule: if you win, you advance, as I mentioned earlier. We modeled this on the NCAA tournament and the NBA play-in format. It has been very successful in professional sports. So we want to create a youth version of that. So the Good Sports creates a verified proof of level that is earned. You could never purchase it. Again, standardized competition structure, performance verified advancement, portable athlete identity, reduced financial escalation. This is basically how it looks today. Families pay for exposure, travel teams and showcases, private coaching, subjective rankings, money signals talent. What we're asking for is earned advancement through verified performance, aligned incentives, reduced financial burden, and merit becomes the signal, not money. Who this changes. Every stakeholder in youth sports today carries a different burden. Good sports lifts them all. We want to think about you, coaches. We want to think about you, parents. We want to think about you, athletes. And we want to think about you, athletic directors. So currently today, coaches, you are forced to be subjective. You have a lot of parent conflict. I know I've seen it myself. And there's a lot of unclear standards, or you're setting your own standards and you may be on an island by yourself with these standards, which unfortunately leads to, again, more standards. After the good sports is implemented, this is what we would want: standardized truth, professional autonomy, and defensible evaluations. Coaches will have the reports that would be available to them inside the Goods virtual world. They can access players like they do already today when they're looking at recruits, but instead of looking at just localized or geographically heavy particular areas of the country, they have access to all the little leagues around the world. They have access to all the Pop Warners, et cetera, et cetera. And they will be able to follow these players just like they would on social media inside of our platform. Parents, what do you have today? You have tons of anxiety. We hear you in social media. We hear you in the news. We hear you on the field, on the courts. Anxiety is at an all-time high for parents. You have unclear progress. You have no idea if little Timmy is going to be a superstar or not. You have no idea if little Josie's going to be a superstar or not. And you end up overspending because, again, there is no incentives for any of the manufacturing companies that provide equipment to lower prices or change anything because parents are going to spend the money anyways. So why not keep the prices high? Why not make sure gloves and bats are thousands of dollars a piece? This is why this happens, because no one has actually created structure, and we continue as parents to buy into it. So what we want to do, again, after good sports, we're going to have verified progress. You're going to be able to see if little Timmy or little Josie actually are elevating their talent strictly based off of the merit in their performance inside of their local leagues. You're going to have real clarity, which creates financial control, because now I have an ability to understand that, okay, at 7, little Timmy, his team didn't make it out of the local tournament. So maybe I don't invest another $1,000 into a bat or another $500 into a glove and all these matching cleats and all this other stuff. If I have it, feel free. This is America at the end of the day. But I don't feel unnecessary pressure to do so, hoping that it changes my child's opportunities to play on better teams. Because the goal is, again, we want to make sure the local leagues begin to thrive like they used to. Going to the Little League World Series when I was a child was something that I looked up to when I played Little League. And I always wanted us to make it. Unfortunately, we didn't as 12-year-olds. I was fortunate to play in the Big League World Series, but at the same time, never got on ESPN. But I do, as an adult today, can sit here and say it wasn't for the lack of equipment. It wasn't for the lack of opportunity. We had a chance. We just didn't pull it out as a team. And some of my teammates are still some of my best friends today. So it's not going to end up hurting anybody, nor is it going to change. But if we keep the system how it is today, then those experiences that you can grow up and pay $50 to play, and you can have the opportunity to make friends with people that are your next door neighbors and get on the field of competition or the court, whatever the case may be, those opportunities are going to get few and far between if we continue to continue to not improve our current system. Athletic directors, last but not least, before current system today, it's fragmented system, as mentioned before. You have tons of external pressure. You're going to have coaches, evaluators, scouts, parents, players. Athletic director's job in 2026 versus in 2000, completely different ball game. Obviously, you have NIL that comes into play as well, but at the same time, you now have to make your high school or your college, whatever the case may be, look even more attractive. And you also have to be able to recruit. I mean, I can't fathom being recruited outside of going from public school to private school. I did have that experience to be recruited from that perspective, but people are being recruited public school to public school today. And the reason is because the athletic directors are, one, trying to save their jobs, but two, trying to create an environment of high level competition in order to get the sponsorships, in order to get the ESPN media deals. These are things that, yes, it's fun, it's exciting, it brings new attention to a new level of sport. But at the same time, we have to do it in a more efficient manner. So, with good sports, we want an integrated pathway. We want to reduce the overhead and we want clear standards for our athletic directors. If performance becomes the standard, who wins? This is not a sports system. 70% dropout is a human development crisis. I want to say that again. We have 70% dropout of 13-year-olds playing athletics or being part of athletics. That should never happen. We are better than that. As adults, it is our objective to make sure that these kids have an opportunity to grow and be all they can be, as we say. But at the same time, if we're creating environments that makes that very difficult because of decisions that we're making that they're not making, that is on us. It does not affect capitalism. It does still allow us to thrive, and companies can still sponsor, make money. You know, there'll be a 7-year-old with a Gatorade commercial here shortly, I'm sure. That stuff will still exist. We just need a little more organization and a little less complaining. So, when athletes own their performance data, they own their identity. It's portable, verified, unmistakable. We are going to make sure inside of our platform on the Goods Virtual World that every athlete, has full capability of owning their data. When you participate in these local leagues, long as your local league sign up within our platform, you will have access to, just like we use today in the game changers of the world, the sports engines of the world, you will have access to your stats. You will have access to your team's current rankings. You will be able to track yourself from the time you're 5 years old all the way through high school. The goal is to create something that feels like their own and also encourages them from a visual perspective and a camaraderie perspective to keep trying to get better. We do not want to continue to create the dropouts that we are having today. As we know, as a parent, as a coach, as an American citizen, I implore you to consider that if we are going to complain about the generation today spending too much time on their phones, laptops, tablets, iPads, when you name it, then we have to create environments that breed happiness, joy, and good, healthy competition. With that being said, this is another edition of the Goods Dossier. I'm Roderick Dix, founder, CEO of the Goods Virtual World. Please continue to entertain and enjoy these children because they are great. They are our next generation. And follow us at the Goods Virtual World on all platforms. And please, after you watch this video or after you get a chance to digest this information, comment, share. I would love to hear it. The Goods Dossiers are open forum. They're supposed to be available for everybody to be able to comment, share, think openly, and make sure that we have an opportunity to change the systems that we operate in every day. Again, my name is Roderick Dix. You just got the goods from the Goods. Good night, everybody.